Confession of a Lover. I destroyed someone's marriage, but I didn't know the whole truth. Part 1. The beginning of the end. I met Ellie at one of those trendy coffee shops in downtown Portland where baristas wear suspenders and the menu is written in chalk on a wall that's never been erased completely. January rain pelted the windows, turning the outside world into a watercolor painting. I was hammering away on my laptop, finishing a pitch for a new client, when she asked if she could share my table. All the others were taken. Please, I gestured to the empty chair. I'm almost done anyway. She smiled that smile. Jesus. It was the kind that reaches the eyes and makes you momentarily forget what you were doing. I closed my laptop. Her name was Ellie Bradford. She was 34, a pediatric nurse at Providence Medical Center, and she had the most captivating green eyes I'd ever seen. We talked for 3 hours. I never made it back to the office that day. She wore a wedding ring. I noticed it immediately when she set down her coffee mug. A simple gold band that caught the light from the Edison bulbs hanging overhead. 5 years, she said when she caught me looking at it. His name is David. I should have walked away right then. Should have finished my coffee, said it was nice meeting her, and deleted her number when she gave it to me. But I didn't. 3 days later, we met for drinks at a speakeasy downtown. She wore a black dress that hugged her curves, and her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders in waves that I desperately wanted to run my fingers through. David's away on business, she said, stirring her old-fashioned with a thin black straw. He travels a lot. Berlin this week, Tokyo next week. What does he do? I asked, trying to sound casual, as if I wasn't already planning how to kiss her goodnight. Finance. Something with international markets and investments. To be honest, when he explains it, my eyes glaze over. I laughed. And he's okay with you having drinks with another man while he's away? She twirled the straw between her fingers, looking up at me through her lashes. What David doesn't know won't hurt him. Warning bells should have been blaring in my mind. Red flags should have been waving frantically. But all I could focus on was the way her lips parted slightly after she spoke, as if she was waiting for me to make a move. We slept together that night. In their bed. Her suggestion, not mine. As if she wanted to taint the space she shared with her husband. He won't be back for 10 days, she whispered against my neck as we tumbled onto the expensive Egyptian cotton sheets. We have time. I told myself it was just physical. A fling with a beautiful woman who was clearly neglected by her husband. I wasn't looking for anything serious. My last relationship had ended badly 6 months prior, and I was enjoying my freedom. This arrangement seemed perfect. But it wasn't just sex. Ellie was smart and funny and surprisingly vulnerable when she let her guard down. We talked for hours about our lives, our dreams, our disappointments. She told me her marriage had been dying a slow death for years. We're roommates at this point, she confessed one evening as we lay in her bed, the sheets tangled around our naked bodies. Ships passing in the night. Why don't you leave? I asked, tracing circles on her bare shoulder. It's complicated, she sighed. Finances, mostly. And I keep hoping things will get better. I didn't push. It wasn't my place to tell her what to do with her marriage. Besides, I was benefiting from its collapse. David returned from his trip, and our affair continued in hotel rooms and occasionally at my apartment. We were careful. Ellie had separate credit cards that David didn't monitor, and we communicated through an app that deleted messages after they were read. Weeks turned into months. Spring arrived, painting Portland in vibrant greens and pinks. My feelings for Ellie deepened, though I tried to fight it. I found myself thinking about her during meetings, wondering what she was doing, if she was happy, if she was thinking about me too. I love you, she whispered one night in early May, her face illuminated by the moonlight streaming through my bedroom window. I've never felt this way about anyone, not even David. I should have been elated. Instead, I felt a knot form in my stomach. This was getting messy, exactly what I'd promised myself I would avoid. What about your marriage? I asked, sitting up. Ellie tucked her hair behind her ear, a nervous gesture I'd come to recognize. I'm going to leave him. Soon. I just need to figure out the right time. And then what? Then we can be together properly. No more sneaking around. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. I love you too, I said, and I meant it. God help me, I meant it. The guilt started creeping in then. Not because I was sleeping with a married woman. That ship had sailed long ago. But because I was actively hoping for the dissolution of someone's marriage. I was rooting for a man I'd never met to have his heart broken so that I could be happy. What kind of person did that make me? My sister Miranda, the only person who knew about the affair, didn't mince words when I confessed my deepening feelings for Ellie. "You're being an idiot, Jason," she said over brunch. "She's not going to leave him. Women who are actually planning to leave their husbands do it before starting a new relationship, not after." "You don't know her," I defended. "Her situation is complicated." Miranda rolled her eyes. "It's always complicated. That's what they all say. Meanwhile, you're putting your life on hold for someone who goes home to another man every night." Her words stung because there was truth in them. I was 36, successful in my career as a marketing executive, but my personal life was in limbo. I was the other man waiting in the wings, hoping for scraps of time from a woman who belonged to someone else. In June, David left for a 3-week business trip to London. Ellie practically moved into my apartment. We played house, cooking dinner together, binge-watching shows on Netflix, walking to the farmer's market on Sunday mornings. It felt like a glimpse into what our life could be if she were really mine. "I'm going to tell him when he gets back," she announced over dinner on his second-to-last night away. "I've already consulted a lawyer about the divorce process." My heart raced. "Are you sure?" She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I've never been more sure of anything. I want a life with you, Jason. A real life, not stolen moments." I believed her. God, I was such a fool. David returned, and days passed with no news. When I pressed Ellie about it, she became evasive. "He's dealing with a crisis at work," she explained. "It's not the right time. I need to be patient." Another week went by, then another. Summer blazed on, and I grew increasingly frustrated with the situation. We argued more frequently, usually after Ellie canceled plans because David unexpectedly came home early or wanted to take her out to dinner. "Sometimes I think you don't actually want to leave him," I snapped one evening after she called to cancel our weekend getaway to the coast. "That's not fair," she replied, her voice tight. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "Then help me understand. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're stringing me along while enjoying the financial security your husband provides." She hung up on me. We didn't speak for 3 days, the longest we'd gone without communication since our affair began. When she finally called, she was crying. "David knows," she sobbed. "Someone saw us together and told him." My blood ran cold. "What did he say? What happened?" "He confronted me last night. He was so calm, Jason. It was terrifying. He just asked me if it was true, and when I couldn't deny it, he walked out. He hasn't come home. Are you okay? Do you want me to come over?" "No," she said quickly. "No, that would make things worse. I need to handle this myself. I'll call you tomorrow." I barely slept that night, imagining scenarios where an enraged David Bradford showed up at my door. I'd seen enough crime documentaries to know that these situations sometimes ended violently. But morning came without incident, and when Ellie called, her voice was steadier. "He came home," she said. "We talked all night. Jason, I think my marriage is really over." Relief and guilt warred within me. "What happens now?" "He's moving out this weekend. He said he needs space to think." It was happening. After months of promises and delays, Ellie was finally going to be free. We could stop hiding, stop lying. I should have been overjoyed. Instead, I felt uneasy. It had all been too easy, too civil. Men like David Bradford, wealthy, powerful men, didn't typically walk away without a fight. But maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe he truly loved Ellie enough to let her go, if that's what she wanted. Maybe happy endings were possible, even when they began with betrayal. I was such a goddamn fool. Part 2. The Unraveling. 3 weeks after David moved out, Ellie suggested I come to their house, her house now, for dinner. It would be the first time I'd be there openly, not sneaking in like a thief. Are you sure it's not too soon? I asked, remembering how my ex had thrown dishes at me when I returned to collect my belongings after our breakup. It's fine, Ellie assured me. David took what he wanted. The divorce proceedings are starting next month. We're moving forward, Jason. The house was in the West Hills, with a view of downtown Portland that probably cost a small fortune. Modern architecture, lots of glass and steel, minimalist furniture that looked uncomfortable but matched the aesthetic perfectly. It was the kind of house featured in architectural magazines, beautiful but cold. Ellie seemed different there. More reserved, less like the warm, spontaneous woman who laughed freely in my apartment. She moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, preparing a meal that was clearly meant to impress. Do you miss him? I asked as she poured wine into crystal glasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She paused, the bottle suspended midair. Miss him? No. I miss the certainty, maybe. 15 years is a long time to be with someone. But I don't miss him. 15 years? She told me they'd been married for 5. I thought you said you got married 5 years ago, I said, trying to keep my tone casual. A flicker of something, annoyance, panic, crossed her face. We dated for 10 years before that. High school sweethearts, actually. Another detail she'd never shared. What else didn't I know? Dinner was delicious, but strained. Ellie kept checking her phone, and twice she stepped outside to take calls, returning with forced smiles and vague explanations about work emergencies. After dinner, as we settled on the sofa with fresh glasses of wine, I decided to address the elephant in the room. Ellie, are you having second thoughts about us? She set down her glass with deliberate care. Of course not. Why would you think that? You seem distant tonight. Like you're not really here with me. She sighed and tucked her legs underneath her. I'm sorry. It's just strange, having you here in this house. There are a lot of memories. Good memories? Mixed, she admitted. David and I had some good years. It wasn't all bad. Jealousy flared in my chest, an ugly, possessive feeling that I wasn't proud of. Do you want to talk about it? Not really, she said, and leaned forward to kiss me, effectively ending the conversation. We made love in the guest room that night. Ellie wouldn't take me to the master bedroom, claiming it felt wrong. Another red flag I chose to ignore. The next morning, I woke to find Ellie already dressed, typing rapidly on her laptop at the kitchen island. Early meeting, she explained, barely looking up. Help yourself to coffee. Lock the door when you leave. And just like that, I was dismissed. As I drove to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between us. Over the next few weeks, Ellie became increasingly difficult to pin down. Our passionate text exchanges dwindled to practical communications about when and where to meet. Twice, she canceled plans at the last minute. When we were together, she seemed distracted, her mind elsewhere. Is the divorce moving forward? I finally asked after a particularly distant evening together. It's complicated, she replied, her new favorite phrase. David's being difficult about the financial settlement. Maybe I could meet him, I suggested. Clear the air. Ellie nearly choked on her wine. Absolutely not. That would be a disaster. Why? If he's already moved on. Jason, please. Trust me on this. David isn't someone you want to cross. The warning in her voice sent a chill down my spine. Has he threatened you? No, nothing like that. He knows how to hold a grudge. Let me handle him my way. I backed off, but suspicion had taken root. I began paying closer attention to Ellie's behavior, noting inconsistencies in her stories about David and the divorce. Then came the night that changed everything. Ellie had canceled our plans again, claiming a work emergency. Frustrated and increasingly suspicious, I decided to drive by her house. I told myself I just wanted to see if her car was there, to confirm she was actually where she said she was. Her car was in the driveway, so it was a sleek black Audi I didn't recognize. I parked down the street and waited, telling myself I'd leave in 5 minutes. This wasn't me. I didn't spy on people. But 5 minutes turned into 10, then 20. At 11:37 p.m., the front door opened. Ellie emerged, followed by a tall man with silver hair. David. I recognized him from photos I'd seen around the house. He didn't look like a man in the middle of a bitter divorce. He looked comfortable, at ease. He bent down and kissed Ellie, not a friendly peck, but a lingering kiss on the lips, before walking to the Audi. The world tilted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew collapsed like a house of cards. I waited until David drove away before I approached the house. My hands shook as I rang the doorbell. When Ellie opened the door, her face drained to color. "Jason, what are you doing here?" "I saw him, Ellie. I saw David leave just now. I saw him kiss you." She stepped outside quickly, closing the door behind her. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "Because it looks like you've been lying to me for months." Tears filled her eyes. "Please, let me explain." "Not here, not now. Meet me tomorrow at the usual place. I'll tell you everything." I should have demanded answers right then. Instead, I left, my mind racing with possible explanations, each more unlikely than the last. The usual place was a small wine bar in the Pearl District where we'd first kissed. I arrived early the next day and ordered a double bourbon. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ellie was 20 minutes late. She slid into the booth across from me, her face carefully composed. "There is no divorce, is there?" I said before she could speak. She looked down at her hands, then back up at me. "No. Were you ever planning to leave him?" "It's complicated." "Stop saying that." I hissed, struggling to keep my voice down. "Just tell me the truth for once." She took a deep breath. "David and I have an arrangement." "An arrangement," I repeated flatly. "Our marriage, it works for us in many ways. Financially, socially. But romantically, we've agreed to seek fulfillment elsewhere." I stared at her, the implications of her words slowly sinking in. "You have an open marriage." "In a way, yes." "And he knows about me?" "Has known all along." She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. The bourbon churned in my stomach. "So all those times you canceled on me, because David came home unexpectedly. Sometimes we still spend time together as a couple. We're still married, Jason. And you never thought to mention this minor detail to me? That I wasn't breaking up a marriage, but participating in some kind of marital experiment." Ellie reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I was going to tell you, but I was afraid you wouldn't understand. And then things between us got so intense so quickly." "You told me you loved me," I said, my voice cracking. "You said you wanted a life with me." "I do love you. But I love David too, in a different way." I laughed bitterly. "Right. You love us both. How convenient for you." "It doesn't have to change anything between us," she pleaded. "We can still see each other. We can still be together." "As what? Your sanctioned affair? Your official side piece?" "No, thank you." I stood up, throwing cash on the table for my drink. Ellie grabbed my arm. "Jason, please. There's more you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, pulling free from her grasp. "You and your husband get to have your cake and eat it too, while the rest of us are just pawns in your game." I walked out, ignoring her calls for me to come back. Outside, the summer heat pressed down on me like a weight. I loosened my tie, gulping for air that didn't seem to satisfy my lungs. My phone buzzed with texts from Ellie, which I ignored. I needed space, time to process the magnitude of her deception. For a week, I avoided her calls and messages. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office, exhausting myself so I'd fall asleep without thinking about her. But she was always there in my dreams, sometimes the Ellie I thought I knew, sometimes a manipulative stranger who laughed at my naivety. On the 8th day, a text arrived from an unknown number. "We should talk." About Ellie. David Bradford. Part 3. The Truth Behind the Lies. I stared at the text for a full 5 minutes, my heart racing. David Bradford wanted to talk to me. About his wife. The wife he'd been sharing with me, apparently with full knowledge. Against my better judgment, I replied. "When and where?" His response came immediately. "My office. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. He included an address in the financial district. I should have declined. Should have told him to take his dysfunctional marriage and shove it. But curiosity burned through me like acid. I needed answers, and David Bradford seemed willing to provide them. Bradford Capital Investments occupied the top floor of a glass skyscraper downtown. The receptionist, young, polished, discretion personified, led me through a maze of corridors to a corner office with views of Mount Hood on one side and the Willamette River on the other. David Bradford stood as I entered. He was taller than he'd appeared from a distance, with the lean build of someone who made time for the gym despite a busy schedule. Silver gray hair, expertly cut. Expensive suit, no tie. The kind of casual wealth that doesn't need to announce itself. "Jason," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." His handshake was firm, confident. This was a man accustomed to being in control. "I have to admit," I said, taking the seat he offered across from his desk, "I was surprised to hear from you." David smiled, a practiced, inscrutable expression that revealed nothing. "I imagine you were. Can I offer you a drink? Scotch? Bourbon?" "No, thank you. I wanted a clear head for whatever was coming." He nodded, pouring himself 2 fingers of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. "I'll get right to it then. Ellie tells me you've discovered the nature of our marriage. If you mean that you two have been playing me for a fool, then yes." David raised an eyebrow. "Is that what you think happened? What else would you call it? She told me your marriage was over. She said she was leaving you." He sipped his scotch, watching me over the rim of his glass. "And you believed her?" "Obviously. Did you ever wonder why she chose you, Jason?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean? Ellie could have her pick of men. She's beautiful, intelligent, charismatic. Yet she pursued you quite deliberately. Did that never strike you as curious?" I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. "She said we had a connection." David's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Ellie is very good at making men feel special. It's a talent of hers." Anger flared in my chest. "If you brought me here to gloat—" "Not at all," he interrupted smoothly. "I brought you here because I believe you deserve to know the truth. The whole truth, not just the fragments Ellie has chosen to share." He opened a drawer and pulled out a manila folder, sliding it across the desk to me. "Before you open that, I want you to understand something. Ellie and I do have an arrangement, as she told you. But it's not quite the open marriage she described." I stared at the folder, suddenly afraid of what it might contain. "What is it then?" David leaned back in his chair, studying me with unnerving intensity. "Ellie suffers from a condition called hybristophilia. Are you familiar with the term?" I shook my head. "It's a paraphilia in which sexual arousal is tied to being with a partner known to have committed moral or legal transgressions. In layman's terms, she's attracted to bad boys, men who've broken rules, cross lines." My mouth went dry. "I'm not a criminal." "No," David agreed. "But you were willing to sleep with a married woman. You were willing to break up a marriage for your own pleasure. That made you just bad enough to be irresistible to Ellie." I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it. He wasn't wrong. "Open the folder, Jason." With reluctant fingers, I flipped open the cover. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Men of various ages and appearances, but all with one thing in common. They were with Ellie. In restaurants, in parks, entering hotel rooms. "What is this?" I whispered, though I already knew. "Ellie's collection," David said matter-of-factly. "Each one thought he was special. Each one thought he was breaking up our marriage. Each one was wrong." I flipped through the photos, nausea rising in my throat. "How many?" "You're number 7 since we formalized our arrangement 5 years ago. There were others before, when Ellie tried to hide her affairs. That's when I realized we needed a system." "A system?" I echoed hollowly. David nodded. "I allow Ellie her dalliances, under certain conditions. I must know who they are. She must be honest with me about her feelings. And when it's over cleanly." I pushed the folder away, suddenly unable to look at the evidence of my own gullibility. "And what do you get out of this sick arrangement?" Something flickered in David's eyes, a vulnerability I hadn't expected. "I get to keep my wife. I get to be the one she comes home to, no matter who else she sleeps with." "That's pathetic," I said, the words out before I could stop them. His jaw tightened. "Perhaps. Love makes fools of us all, doesn't it? Even successful men who should know better." Why are you telling me this? Why show me these photos? David finished his scotch and set the glass down with a decisive click. Because Ellie broke one of our rules with you. She developed genuine feelings. My heart stuttered. What? That's against our agreement. Her affairs are supposed to be physical, not emotional. With you, something changed. He looked away, briefly, a muscle working in his jaw. She talks about you differently. She's distracted when she's with me. For the first time, I'm afraid I might actually lose her. The revelation should have given me a perverse satisfaction, knowing I'd affected Ellie more than the others. Instead, I felt a deep sadness for all three of us, trapped in this twisted triangle. So what now? I asked. Are you warning me off? Threatening me? David shook his head. I'm giving you a choice. Now that you know everything, you can walk away. Find someone uncomplicated, someone available. Or what? Or you can continue seeing Ellie, but with full awareness of the situation. No more lies, no more pretense of a future together. Just the reality of what she can offer you. I stared at him, incredulous. You be okay with that? Knowing she has feelings for me. A flicker of pain crossed his face. I've adapted to many things to keep my marriage intact. I can adapt to this too. And if I want more? If I want all of her? David's expression hardened. That's not an option. Ellie will never leave me, Jason. Not for you, not for anyone. Our lives are too deeply intertwined. Have you asked her what she wants? I don't need to, he said with quiet confidence. I know my wife better than you ever will. I stood up, suddenly needing to be anywhere but that office, with its spectacular views and its glimpse into a marriage I could never fully comprehend. I'll think about it, I said, though I already knew my answer. David stood as well, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. Take your time. But a word of advice. Don't try to save her from this arrangement. She doesn't want to be saved. As I reached the door, a thought occurred to me. The other men in those photos, what happened to them? David's smile was enigmatic. They made their choices, just as you will make yours. I left Bradford Capital Investments with my head spinning, the weight of everything I'd learned pressing down on me like a physical force. That night, Ellie called. I almost didn't answer, but at the last moment, I swiped to accept. Jason, she breathed, relief evident in her voice. Finally, I've been so worried about you. I met with David today, I said, cutting straight to the chase. Silence stretched between us, taut as a wire. What did he tell you? She finally asked, her voice small. Everything, Ellie. The arrangement. The other men before me. Your condition. It's not a condition, she said defensively. It's just what I'm attracted to. Men who are willing to do the wrong thing. Men who are willing to break rules for me, she corrected. There's a difference. Is there? She sighed. Can we talk in person? Please? There's so much more to explain. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a 24-hour diner where the chances of running into anyone we knew were slim. Ellie arrived looking exhausted, dark circles under her eyes visible even through her makeup. She slid into the booth across from me, wrapping her hands around a mug of coffee as if seeking warmth. David shouldn't have told you all that, she began. He had no right. And you had no right to lie to me for months, I countered. To make me believe I was special, that we had a future. Tears welled in her eyes. But you are special, Jason. That's what David doesn't understand. It's different with you. How? How am I different from the others in those photographs? I fell in love with you, she whispered. For real. That wasn't supposed to happen. I wanted to believe her. God help me, despite everything, I still wanted her. So what now, Ellie? What happens next in this scripted drama of yours? She reached across the table for my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. We could keep seeing each other. But honestly this time, no more lies. While you go home to David. Yes, she admitted. I can't leave him, Jason. Not completely. Because of money? Status. She shook her head. Because I love him too. Differently than I love you. But it's still love. 15 years together creates a bond that's hard to break. So you want us both. Is that so wrong? To want different things from different people. I studied her face, the face I'd kissed countless times, the face I'd thought about every day for months. What happens when you get bored with me? When the thrill of the forbidden wears off? Will I be replaced like the others? Pain flashed in her eyes. You really think that's all this is? A thrill. I don't know what to think anymore, Ellie. You've lied about so much. Not about how I feel about you, she insisted. Never about that. We talked for hours in that diner, as the night crowd thinned and was replaced by early morning workers grabbing coffee. Ellie laid bare the complexities of her marriage, her desires, her fears. She admitted that the pattern with other men had always been the same: intense attraction, passionate affair, inevitable fading of interest. But it's been 8 months with you, she said, and I still feel the same way I did that first day in the coffee shop. That's never happened before. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did. But a larger part had finally awakened to the reality of who Ellie Bradford really was. A woman who would always crave what she couldn't fully possess, who thrived on the danger of forbidden love. As dawn broke over Portland, casting long shadows through the diner windows, I made my decision. I can't do this anymore, Ellie. Not like this. Her face crumpled. Jason, please. We can make it work. No, we can't. Because I'll always be waiting for you to come to me fully, and you never will. That's not a life I want. So you're choosing to walk away? Just like that. I shook my head. Not just like that. After months of lies and manipulation. After discovering I'm just one in a series of men you've used to fulfill some psychological need. That's not fair, she protested. What we have is real. Maybe it is, I conceded. But it's not enough. I stood and dropped cash on the table for our coffee. Ellie grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. You'll regret this, she said, her tone shifting from pleading to cold. No one else will understand you like I do. In that moment, I saw what David had been living with, the mercurial nature of a woman who could turn from passionate to calculating in an instant. Goodbye, Ellie, I said gently, extracting my arm from her grasp. Outside, the morning air was fresh and cool, washing away the stuffiness of the diner and the heaviness of our conversation. I walked several blocks before calling an Uber, needing the time to clear my head. 3 days later, a package arrived at my apartment. Inside was a leather-bound notebook I'd left at Ellie's house months ago, filled with ideas for work projects and personal reflections. A note was paper-clipped to the cover. You made the right choice. Take care of yourself. D.B. I should have thrown it away, this gesture from a man whose marriage defied comprehension. Instead, I placed it on my bookshelf, a reminder of how easy it is to see only what we want to see. Ellie called and texted for weeks afterward, alternating between declarations of love and angry accusations. Eventually, the messages slowed, then stopped altogether. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned she and David had relocated to Chicago for his work. Sometimes in quiet moments, I still think about her, about the intoxicating months we spent together, about the future I'd imagined for us. But mostly, I think about how we convince ourselves of narratives that suit our desires, ignoring the warning signs that point to more complicated truths. I thought I was destroying a marriage. In reality, I was just a supporting character in someone else's story. A story with no heroes, only flawed people seeking connection in broken ways. Maybe that's the most painful truth of all. That love, even when it feels transcendent, can be just another form of self-deception. 6 months after my last conversation with Ellie, I received a final text from her number. He never told you why, did he? Why he really let me be with other men. Ask him about Dr. Reynolds and the diagnosis. You deserve to know everything. I never responded. Some truths are better left unexplored. The end.